And there was so much of recognition that we got. People heard about it and they saw that this is one way they can get out of their normal work life, network with colleagues, and have some healthy activity as a group.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, who thinks the documentary Embrace should be mandatory for everyone, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 42 of the Running for Real podcast, second one of 2018. I hope your year has started off well so far. Last week we had Mo Alkawelde, who is an elite runner from Jordan, who's making huge impacts in countries that really need it with his work for Generations for Peace. He's, helping to organize peace-building programs for youths in countries in the Middle East, and it was really an insightful interview. And he's also run 2:25 in the marathon, so pretty fast there. Today we have the ultimate running role model for women in India, Bhumika Patel. She has become the face of running in India, and you're soon going to see why. She's going to share what she's learned about the difference between running in cultures like India compared to other parts of the Western world, and what she is focusing on now to really help runners feel included, especially those in a category that are typically forgotten about. Now, before we thank our sponsors, Health IQ and Body Health, I want to take a moment to congratulate the December winners of the giveaways this year. So John Knutson was our V winner for December, and Frank Pike was our Body Health winner. And we also had a little bonus giveaway within the Superstars group, which Erin Cheyenne Staker won, and she also won a V. We do have some bonuses that are in the Superstars group only. So if you've not yet joined, make sure you do at tinamuir.com/superstars. So we will just take a moment to thank our sponsors, Health IQ and Body Health, and we'll be right to the interview. New year, new beginnings. It's time to be a new sponsor, one who is here to help you because you put in the time, energy, and effort into looking after your health. So you kind of deserve a reward for that. Health IQ gives us lower life insurance rates for being healthy. Yet another reason to tell those naysayers why running is good for you. Find out more later in the episode. New year, new you. Well, kind of. By now, most of us know that big New Year's resolutions really don't stick most of the time. But small ones that we can actually stick to, they will make a heck of a difference. Just like adding Body Health Perfect Amino to your routine made a big difference for me, and it could to you too. Bhumika, thank you so much for joining me on the Running for Real podcast. I am really excited to talk to you and talk about some things that we haven't really discussed on the podcast yet. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Tina, for inviting me to the podcast, and it's really an honor.
Oh, no, thank you. This is great. And Bhumika was another one of the women who, alongside myself, was voted by Women's Running Magazine as 21 women changing the running world. And that was where I first really heard of you and your story. And it's been amazing to kind of follow along and see what you're doing. And we're going to kind of dive into some of those today. So the main thing that I want to focus on, obviously, is the running aspect of this conversation. But starting before that, so you are a project manager at IBM, big company, worldwide, and obviously has a lot of employees within the branch in India. And so firstly, when it comes to where you live, just because many of my listeners don't really know too much about India, being in Bangalore, which I think is where the building is, correct?
The south of India, yeah.
Is that area kind of, I guess, very progressive with the way that they kind of approach things like health and wellness, or because it is IBM and it is a worldwide company, or is it still kind of not, from what you've seen, the rest of the world worldwide, health and fitness, especially for women, not as much of a priority as other things?
Bangalore as such is a very progressive city compared to all the other cities in India. I think this is one place where people want to work, and they want to, the people from different cultures. We can see different languages. They speak all kinds of languages. It's not just the local Kannada language. You find people speaking different languages. Yeah, and also we do see a lot of international people here. So it's a very global atmosphere here, and because it's the IT capital, there's a lot of IT companies here. So there has been a lot of open-mindedness compared to any of the other cities. So I think that's one reason. And an IBM as such has a very open culture. It promotes women, and they want women to be empowered and come forward and take the stage.
Good.
So all the combined effect of everything has really helped grow the running community here.
Which is funny, actually, as I read about you, it kind of said that you were a very quiet, kind of, didn't really, put yourself out there or anything kind of person. And now here you are, kind of this role model worldwide for women's running. I mean, even sponsored by Adidas. So we're going to kind of go into that a bit. But let's talk about running in general in India, and then maybe you can break it down into Bangalore. So tell us firstly, before we get into the deeper stuff, what made you start running? I mean, I know the story, but let's tell the listeners how you first got into it.
So I was an accidental runner. I would have never thought about, even running 1 kilometer, forget about marathon. So I thought that was an impossible distance. 5 kilometers looked like a very impossible distance for me to run because I would just take my car out, go for groceries. So everything, I just took my car out, and I would, walk so much also. So it was very unlikely. Yeah, I never thought about it. But in school, I did participate in competitive events, although my parents wanted me to focus on studies more and not so much in sports, because they said I should focus on building a career when I grow up.
Is that quite common, like that approach?
Yeah, it's quite common. It's quite common because the parents don't want to risk the child going into other things. They want them to focus completely on studies and building a career. So they think it's a big risk when they add additional hobby, any additional things like this, because culturally, I don't. They themselves have not seen a situation like this where they have done multiple things, and they faced a lot of hardship. So I think they would take the safer route. Most of them. And I used to just go for these sporting events, and but I used to win. Every time I go, I used to go directly into an event, and I used to win and not tell my parents. So, but when they found that I won, they were quite happy with it. So they were like thrilled. They were like, they used to, and once they gave a party with all their friends, and they're very happy. But I had to do a lot of push it myself, and during my childhood. And so I never got trained formally in sports or athletics. And so it went on the normal route of, going for higher studies and then picking up a job and things. So, and then finally, after I got married, I was struggling with my career. It was quite difficult. I was trying to balance my work life, my personal life. And then there was a lot of stress from work. I was struggling with all of it. Then I never thought about it. I just took my parents for granted. They were always there, and they would support me with a lot of things because I was very pampered and protected, and my dad was always there, giving me all kinds of advice. And they used to call me like every second, third day, taking an update. How is it going? Are you handling it? And then suddenly, I knew my dad had this heart problem, and he had a bypass surgery earlier when I was in college. So it suddenly came up again. He had this pain in the heart, when he went for a walk. So we went for bypass surgery again, and I didn't see him again. I didn't see him back out of the hospital, and that was quite a shock because I thought that he would recover. He was a strong man. He would recover. I lost him, and that was a big trauma for me. he was like my backbone,
Yeah.
while I was going through all that suffering. He was there. So so that trauma, I didn't know how to handle it. I was just not doing things, like a normal person. I used to deep dive into my work and, and nothing else. There was nothing else. I just wanted to get rid of that thought that I lost my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then my husband thought that, I need a break. He just suggested to me that why don't you just try this run club which I have in my workplace. So the employees get trained for free before the event for 2 months. So why don't you just join? The family can join. So I was very hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate my husband going into running for such a long time. So he spent hours in training, and I couldn't understand that how could you give away a Sunday morning to something like this. So I just, but I told him, well, let me try. I can come there, but I'm not sure whether I would do the entire session. I would just sit in one corner and probably watch. It'll be a good break for me. Early morning, I can just get out of home with you. So I went there, and the first 1 or 2 sessions, I think I just observed what they were doing, and I still didn't get up and go and join them. So the coach was quite strict. He said, if you are here, you have to do this. You have to do this, or I will send you back home. But I wanted to be there, watching them. And then I said, okay, let me just try some part of the training, like a few things, like a jog through the roads, which they were doing. So I just joined them for the jog, and so on. So we just kept pushing myself to, and the coach encouraged me there, and the others also were there. There were also other ladies, the families of all the employees who had come there. So I thought, okay, so let me just join, add one more activity, let me continue, and so on. And then I went into the race. I picked the least distance, and that's how I was. Like, I wouldn't take more burden on my body. I would rather sit down and watch. So I just I went for the 4K race, and even at that point, my mindset was like, I'm just going to finish the race, and maybe I would walk or do whatever. But when I finished half the distance at 2K, I realized that there were just 2 girls ahead of me, and if I just push a little bit further, I could probably win. So I just at that point it struck me. I had, let me just push myself, and I went ahead. I pushed myself, and I won the race.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Yeah, so so I understood. Okay, so there is a competitive self in me, and which I need to explore, and I'm strong. And there is, and then I was on the stage. And there were so many people clapping for me, and it felt so different. It was like, wow, where was this part of me? Where did I?
Yeah, what have I been missing? Yeah.
Yeah. So, the muted self of me, what did I do to myself? And that was the awakening point, I would say. But there was no smile even at that point because I didn't like the sweat. And I was like, okay, so I would try to maintain myself, like, at least neat hair and then looking decently good and presentable at all times. And look at me now, I'm like completely sweaty, and my hair is all over, and what is this, and my shirt is like so I was like not smiling. I didn't know that I should be smiling at the cameras there on the stage for this kind of after so much of torture of running 4 kilometers. So there was no smile. So if you look at those pictures, there's no smile. I just wanted to get back home, have a shower, and then go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. But it had changed something in you internally to where you kind of, from there you continued to progress, and now, since then you've traveled the world to run marathons all over. You've improved significantly with your times each one, and I want to get on to kind of talk about, running and just how much of an impact it had on you. But before we kind of get on, when you were in that training time or in the race itself, how were other people reacting? Like, did other men kind of mind that you were out there, running alongside them, especially if you were near the front? I'm assuming you beat quite a few men. Were they okay with that? And then also, how did non-runners react? Like, is it kind of an acceptable thing for people to be running around the streets? And what would you say is different to other countries now that you've seen what it's like over in, the US or the UK?
Yeah, so when I did those runs, those initial runs, it was always in a group. I would never think about going out alone on the road because for one reason, I was not comfortable wearing those tights and t-shirts. Mm-hmm. And then the sweat makes it like, the clothes stick to your body.
Yep.
And yeah, so I was very conscious about that it's not just the sweat, but yeah, it's doing something which is not acceptable. Like, I would actually be covered up. We were brought up like that to be on the conservative side in terms of clothing, and with unknown people, you would do more so, and you have to have, it's more dignified to be that way. So I didn't know this is something quite new to me that I didn't know how can you be covered and then you can still be running. Those kind of things thought crossed my mind, and I did notice that the men outside they don't take sometimes it depends on the street on which you are running, which area you are. There will be men who would be staring at you, in ways you don't like. I've had such incidents while I was running. So, I would stick to a group where there are men and women together. And mostly I would stick to the women's group. I was still not comfortable with the men. The men, where I did observe that, I realized that they thought, okay, it's a lady who's just started running and look at her, she's crossed us. Yeah, and then I think that there was also the fact that the men are supposed to be, they are taught this way that keep a distance from the women you don't know, keep a cordial distance, mm-hmm. and not talk too much, like on a very friendly basis, if it's a colleague's wife or, it's, so I did find a certain discomfort there. They were adjusting. They were trying to adjust with the men around, and that to women who are colleagues' wives, and things like that. So those things were there. Yeah, but I always stuck to a group, and in those days.
Has that changed now?
Yeah, now I go any time of the day, anywhere. But I do stick to the known routes and well-lit areas. And
do you run on your own now? Sometimes.
I have to run on my own because in my work, I have this US shift. I work for US customers, so I wake up late in the morning. So most of the runners would have finished their run. Mm-hmm. So I don't find anybody to run with me. So I decided that what the hell, I need to go. So whatever happens, I need to go for a run. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes run in the afternoon.
And does anyone give you any trouble running on your own now, or have things changed a little bit since 2009 when you first started?
Yeah, I think in terms of the way people look at runners, the perspective has changed a lot. They've become more acceptable. It's more acceptable. They think that we nowadays see a lot of runners on the roads here, and earlier there was none. Mm. We had to go to a certain location where the runners meet and they all start together. And that is where the runners would be, but you won't find them in every other area. But now you see runners everywhere. There's a huge growth in the community of runners. You also find women running alone on the roads. And these are safe, well-lit areas with people around and not isolated. So I would stick to those kind of areas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that things have kind of moved along a little bit and that you are able to kind of get out there and do what you need to do. And as I mentioned, you've kind of gone worldwide to do various races, and your first marathon was the London Marathon, which way to go big or go home there by choosing that one, one of the most crowded marathons in London of all places. But
Yeah.
Tell us what that experience was like, going from running in India, where, like you said, at that time, there wasn't that many people running in general, and especially not women, and then going to a race that big where, you're surrounded by other women, and what differences you noticed about running in London that first time.
What I want to add here is that when I started running, when I started training, I chose a place in the stadium to train inside the stadium. I was always inside the stadium and not outside, because I didn't want to run all alone on the road. And I, being very shy, I didn't know how to connect with runners and get a group for myself. And those things so alien to me. So I was within the stadium. So a lot of those races I've done are at the masters level, at the state level, and I stuck to the stadium. And then I saw that while I was doing all that, there was a growing community of runners who are doing road racing, and there are a lot of races. So I picked a 10K race, which was a road race. And in India it is crowded. There are a lot of runners. There are a lot of women, and you don't feel like you are the only one running. So there is company.
Okay.
Yeah, there is company. So I was doing just the 10Ks, and once I improved the 10K time, I moved on to a 21K race. But I never thought 42. Why would I do a 42? I'm fit, and I'm putting in these many hours of training. Why should I put in? How will I get that time? And 42 is too much. I mean, why will I do that? And so then I saw that an international race, a marathon, it has the 42 as a distance. You don't have the 10Ks also along with it. So if you want to go to that kind of a race, then 42 is the distance. So my husband he said, okay, we got to race an international event, and this is it. This is the London Marathon you're going, and we just registered for it. I had just 2 months, and I realized, I had to do a 42K, and I was not a marathoner then. So there was huge panic. I just panicked because that was I would never do a distance beyond 18K in my trainings. Beyond 15 to 18K, I have not gone beyond that. So how would I do a 42K? 2 months. So there was big panic. So I read up on the internet. There are a lot of blogs and reviews of the race. And I prepared myself mentally, and there's a route map of the entire race. And then I was prepared myself with all these, with inputs from the experts in Bangalore now. By now, there are so many people who have run that race earlier. There are many who have done that. So I spoke to them. I got all the information. And I started training. I just told myself, don't look at the watch, just go do the distance in training. Get the miles, and and then the other fear factor for me was the cold. I can't stand very cold temperatures. Like even in Bangalore, it gets very chill throughout the year. It's very cold in the morning. Very cold, not as much as you see it in London and other places. That was a very big challenge. I thought, how would I race in that kind of a cold? Because I like to. By now, I have this very hard and fast things about running that I can only run in the morning at 5:30 a.m. and finish the run before the sun comes out. So those early mornings, and I also had this thing that I will not be able to race when it's extremely hot or if it's extremely cold. So I had these things that very fixed things which I had developed in my mind about running, which I had to just break through. And I had to get over those barriers. The marathon teaches you so many things about yourself, and there are so many life lessons you learn. So I actually learned so much about myself and what I was doing, which direction was I going when I started training for London. So everything that scared me, I prepared myself on how will I tackle it. And when I went to the race, I was prepared. I knew that I can finish the 42 kilometers. And I had also read so much about you hit the wall at 32 kilometers. So although I would have done it neatly without any trouble, I was still, because I read so much about that 32 being, will I cross that 32 kilometers was the fear. So at every stage there was a different fear that crossed my mind, but I was prepared. Yeah, if I come across this kind of a situation, how would I prevent it? How will I hydrate myself, my nutrition? And I did a lot of reading. I got a lot of help. And
yeah. And what did you notice about the difference in the way running was approached, or other runners in the race when you were over there, considering all your races before had been in India?
So throughout the race, there was this since you start in your best Corral, that was something new. We do have Corrals in some races here, but the Corrals there are the proper huge Corrals, with one Corral having like so many countless runners, and then we think that okay, so this is we could start here, but then we can go and we could probably go ahead. I didn't realize that we were all running at the same pace from the start to the end, and there was like arm to arm. Somebody there's only that much gap, and there was not a huge gap like in India. When I race here, there's a huge gap. I can see one runner like very far ahead, and the other runner is quite behind in marathons specifically. Yeah, so there were runners right through the race, from the start to the finish, and very close to you, and that gives you a collective energy, right? It's a collective energy, and it gives you a big boost, and that's why your finish times are much better, I think.
Yeah. And did the crowds, was that different as well with having that many people around?
Oh, huge crowd support. So London was so the entire race, entire route, you don't find any gaps in the crowd. There's no area where you don't find a crowd.
Yeah.
So the crowd here just pulls you through, and you are like you feel like hero all through. You're like you're being cheered, and your name is being called out because it's on the bib.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a great feeling. And then one other thing I read you noticed about was the clothing, the difference in what people were wearing over there compared to, races at home.
Now, if you ask me, in India, we do have the same collection which we get abroad. Yeah, we're quite advanced in those things. Like,
so that's changed a lot since.
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot since I started running. But I do see some the collection range, as in the sleeveless tops for women, are a better range in the US or the Europe compared to India. You'll find just one piece of that in the entire store, one or two pieces. But so the shorter clothes may not be a big collection.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then, so even now you're a professional runner with Adidas. And how did they kind of come into this with supporting you and, helping you with your running and what you were trying to do?
So after I finished the London Marathon, I found that I got a lot of offers in terms of the sponsors like Adidas came forward, and I thought that was a good opportunity because they have groomed me. Their experts have given me all the information I needed for my races. In terms of clothing, I got a lot of data. I would ask a lot of questions like, if this is a cold temperature race, like I'm going to race in 4 degrees, so will this kind of clothing help me? What is it there? So they have some heat, climate heat technology, and they have these warm gloves which we could wear, and then they have shoes which are cushioned to barefoot, and all kinds of. And then I would ask all kinds of questions that if I had to do a speed workout, then what shoe is good for me? If I have to do a long run, what is a shoe? And I have broad feet, so what kind will this shoe be good? Will these kind of stuff? So I asked a lot of questions. They helped me out with a lot of things
Mhm.
that I was facing, and every race was unique. So every race I would try out different things. And they introduced me to performance clothing, performance footwear. So it was quite good.
Yeah, and did you find that, once they started bringing these products out and you started wearing them, tighter clothing, maybe shorter clothing than what you'd been wearing in the past, was there any negativity at that point? As I'm guessing you were one of the first women out there to kind of start wearing these performance clothes.
Yes, so of course the clothes look really good on me. I was surprised that I look so beautiful with they fitted me so well, and I was experimenting with myself and it really surprised me that running can make you so confident. Make you feel so body confident. Yeah, my pictures look so good, and I was there in the social media, putting them up, because that was part of the contact thing, that you could write reviews and talk about what you're wearing. So,
And did you find a lot of other women kind of started wearing that stuff, seeing you
yeah,
wearing it and seeing it look good on you?
yes. So there were a lot of people who adopted it. There were a lot of girls who would come and ask me, "What am I wearing? Will I get this in this store?"
Mm-hmm.
And I could see a lot of them wearing similar things like me. And there was some objections from my family itself,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not used to seeing me in those kind of clothes. So initially they did, like my mom would ask me questions like, "Are you going to wear that and go out so early in the morning?" And I said, "Yeah, but this is running gear, and this is what I'm going to use, and I will do the race, and then I'll wear a jacket on top. I'll cover myself."
Mm-hmm.
Is what I said. I don't know. I had a very difficult time explaining to her, but then she realized when I was getting so much of, when I was winning the races and I got so much of, people started appreciating me, and she saw that there was so much appreciation I got. She just understood that this is something that is part of running, and she has to do it, and she has accepted it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So,
that is good. And I'm sure you're not the only one. I mean, I think anywhere around the world, I'm sure some people are, a little bit, don't view running in kind of the same way that we do, because they haven't really, like you said, understood it. So good to hear that she's, the family kind of came around to the idea, and it's good to see that you've, inspired other people to wear that stuff. I mean, really cool. And as you know, it helps a lot having comfortable clothing that works well for running. Now, I want to talk about the Pinkathon, because this is kind of really where you started to shine within the running world. You're now the head coach for the training and an ambassador for it. So what I read is that you managed to recruit 1,000 women from IBM to run it the first year that you got involved, or maybe the following year that you got involved. So tell us a bit about how that kind of went down with getting that many people involved. Was it kind of a difficult thing to encourage women, all these women, to do it, or was it kind of the women who worked at IBM were just waiting for an opportunity to do something like this?
So I never thought of my work life and my personal life as two separate things. I see it as integrated, like one feeds into the other. So at work, when I started running, I also got to know about that there are corporate events where I could represent the company and we could have a team. And
Yep.
so when I won on my individual level, we also won as a team in my.
Yeah.
So
You were the secret weapon that they had to win things.
yeah, you could say that. So we've got the best performing company twice in the Bangalore event with the 10K race as a team. So a lot of colleagues got to know about it, and they started coming and asking questions on how can we do this, how can we be part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much of recognition that we got. We were everywhere in the IBM news, and people heard about it, and they saw that this is one way where they can get out of their normal work life and network with colleagues and have some healthy activity, as a group. So there were a lot of people who came forward. So there was already a wave of health consciousness which was beginning to start, and the company was encouraging it. We got a lot of support. So we were already doing this, and there were men and women both into this. And when this Pinkathon started in Bangalore, it was a women-only event, and there was breast cancer, which awareness which they were trying to raise. So I thought that this would be a good opportunity for the women in IBM. And then we also had these different categories of faces. So people who were just starting off with a run, who were just starting off into running, the beginners could take the shortest distance, like how I had started off the 4K. So there was a 3 kilometers. So a lot of people would ask me that would I have to run the entire 3 kilometer distance, and it was very scary for them. I said you could walk it, but you just have to make the effort to be there at 6 a.m. in the morning. Can you do that? So they asked me a lot of questions. So I spent a lot of my effort answering those questions, and then I formed a team of people who were runners already. We were winning. We had a good team who was willing to help and come forward and be there to support them. So with that team, we just helped out, answer these very basic questions. It was just about getting the fear out of them. That running doesn't mean that you have to kill yourself. Go do something that your body doesn't want to do. It's something that can be effortless, with help. So the small questions and things, we formed a team which was supporting the entire effort. So that way, and so the maximum participation was in that 3 kilometers distance. And and a lot of women were willing to do that. And that's how we got 1,000.
Yeah. And did they continue those women, a lot of them continue to say, actually, I quite enjoyed this and do other things?
Yeah, they had a very good time. And then we had formed, we have this Indian IBM connection community where we could network and keep ourselves updated on what is next after this race. How do we continue? And people would post their stories on how it has benefited them. And so there was an online community which kept them going, and we went on to participate in different races throughout the year. And then came the next year, and then again we had double the count of what it was the previous year.
Great.
Yeah. So we have a huge community of health conscious professionals who see this as a part of their lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and then they see each other as a big support network. And now we have IBMers from across the world who are connected. So the next event that I'm doing is the Tokyo Marathon, and I got an invite last week from the leader of the club of Tokyo saying so he didn't know that I was going to come to Tokyo, but he read about me and he sent me a message that we want you to come and participate in Tokyo Marathon as a team. Will you come? And I was like so happy that what a coincidence.
That's amazing. What a cool opportunity. Yeah, I mean, so how many of the marathon majors have you done now? 4?
I did the London, Berlin, Chicago, and next I'm doing the Tokyo. Yeah.
So Tokyo will be your 4th. Okay.
4th one.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. And then, from working with the Pinkathon, having such a huge influence on women and just runners in general, getting involved with that, you decided you wanted to help more with other things. And something that was particularly important to you was inclusion for people who, may have disabilities. So tell us a bit about the, I'm going to see if I can say the name of this. You said it to me earlier, but we're going to see if we can remember. The Samantha Trust for the Disabled. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so while I was doing all these running things with my community of runners at work and outside, I realized that there is a big chunk of participants who are from the specially abled background, visually impaired, hearing impaired, and I'm from the underprivileged background. And I thought that something needs to be done about. We had the skills, we had the people, and this is a big chunk of people who are going into an event, and then we need to give them continuity too. So we were doing it for the normal women, and women can be extended to these specially abled people. So I by then I had already started training women, on a weekend. So I thought that the people who we have trained, they can help and guide the visually impaired. So we started with the visually impaired girls. We picked girls. I wanted it to be a small population. I didn't want to get my hands into everything because then we were dealing with so many unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
They're from other people from underprivileged background, and they are blind. Sorry, visually impaired, and they're also often. Some of them are often, and we don't know what we are dealing with, and we are trying to teach them health and fitness. There are so many unknowns, so I picked visually impaired from underprivileged background and who are girls, so only girls to start with. And how we started it was girls that I had trained through Pinkathon and in IBM who were with me. We just formed a group of guides. We just I had some training for them, some sensitization on how we should be approaching visually impaired people. How can we just get them, enroll them into a health and a fitness activity? Mm-hmm. So we had some sensitization training for all of them, and then and Samathanam was the first institute which agreed to be part of this. And now we have one more, which is Sahana Institute for Blind. So we are training two institutes.
So with that, you kind of get these individuals who, want to be healthy and active, but, obviously with visual impairments may have, difficulty being able to get out there. So you round up guides from people that you already know, have them kind of lead these runners, around runs and kind of take them to races as well. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, so we pick a race. We pick a race like every 3 months. There's a goal race, and we go for it. So we train towards it, and for each individual, there's a different distance, and for some of them who are competitive, we give them a time goal, mm-hmm. and accordingly the guides are paired. And there are a lot of people from the existing community of runners in Bangalore. And some non-runners also come forward. Some of them are walking the distance. The girls are walking the distance. They still can't run. So we get some people to walk with us. So my colleagues from work, the runners from Bangalore, and the women from Pinkathon, they all contribute to this.
Oh, that's great.
And by now the runners in Bangalore have a huge, knowledge. Huge knowledge on running. Yeah, they know everything about nutrition. They know so much about the clothes they can wear. What races are good. Mm-hmm. What kind of support is there in the races. The runners here are quite advanced.
That's great. So things have really, really changed and come along since you started running, and that's great that you've been a part of this. And my final question to you is kind of, what do you see your future being? What would you love to do in the future with regards to running and helping others? Where do you see yourself going?
I see this entire thing as a huge network of women, a huge network of brothers, who are supporting each other. And because of the unique conditions in which the Indian women are, the background culturally, how they have to face several obstacles. They can't just talk about running and their own running. They have to look at it from a perspective of being a wife, mother, and being, part of a big extended family. and also working. So all this, they will face a lot of obstacles. So in order to overcome those, I see this big network as supporting each other, helping each other with even they face challenges and growing one another. And while they are doing this, they are also supporting this huge community of specially abled girls and boys. Also, I would like to extend it because they just need to spend these smart IT professionals, runners. They just need to spend 3 to 4 hours in a week, and that's enough. And that personal touch with them is going to make a huge difference to somebody.
Sure.
It's going to make a huge difference. So that's something I always urge these runners that whatever you've learned, you will come full circle when you're able to impart it to somebody who actually needs it. And there are people right next to where you work, where you stay, right at home, where your mate comes to your home and works for you. With that family, if you help, you would have made a big difference to the society and so on. So you're making it's a big chain impact that you will create. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and I think most of us listening know that running is kind of a knock-on effect. So the more people you can kind of get involved, the more they're going to roll off on other people. So that's wonderful what you've been able to do. Now we're just going to take a moment to thank our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with the Running for Real 4. Did you know that research has shown runners have a 30% lower risk of mortality, a 45% lower risk of death from heart disease, and a 20% reduced risk of 7 types of cancers? So next time those naysayers tell you running is bad for your knees, throw that at them. Most insurance companies throw us in with everyone else, assuming we're sitting on the couch all day eating McDonald's. But there is one that recognises all that time and hard work we put into looking after our health. Health IQ secures us runners lower rates on life insurance as a reward for our health effort to live a health-conscious lifestyle. So like you save money on insurance for being a good driver, Health IQ makes sure we save money on our life insurance too. And you can also upload your race results and Strava data to get you additional savings. I know you guys are going to like that part. You can find out more and get a free quote at healthiq.com/running for real. Earlier on in the show, I mentioned that Body Health Perfect Amino made a big difference to me, and it really did, especially at this time of year when marathon training starts and things begin to get really tough. This is always a time we feel a bit overwhelmed as the accumulation of miles starts to catch up, especially when combined with those hard, heavy training runs. I found that taking Body Health Perfect Amino made my body recover from training that much quicker, meaning I could really attack those long runs and hard sessions. But it's not just for marathoners, it can be runners of any distance. If you get sore or fatigued during training, Body Health Perfect Amino will help you recover too, and here's why. Your body absorbs 99% of the amino acids in Body Health Perfect Amino, compared with only 48% in eggs and 32% in meat or fish. I would take them immediately after a run, and as they absorb within 25 minutes, that would give me a nice amount of time to stretch, another component of staying healthy. Then you can enjoy your post-race meal. Get 10% off at bodyhealth.com using coupon code TINA10. All right, Bhumika, just 4 more little questions for you, starting with, I usually say a unique nutrition tip, maybe something you eat or something that you enjoy that maybe is a bit different to what we have in America.
Yeah, so I'm like a big fan of these Indian herbs and spices, like ginger, garlic, tulsi, which is basil, and then there's turmeric. I find all kinds of ways to include these into my diet. So, for example, like my morning tea has a mix of herbs in it. I put tulsi in it, tulsi, and then there is ginger, and then also I sometimes I add turmeric to milk, and that's the turmeric latte, which we call it there in the US. I've seen it.
Yeah.
that can be had like a post-run drink, or before you go to sleep, and it has a nice calming and soothing effect. You sleep better. Yeah, and then before the race, like the carbo loading, one night before, I like this. I like to have this early dinner, and it's like the Indian, we call it curd with white rice and diluted with water, and that I find it very soothing on the stomach also.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's really cool. What about a running for real moment for you? A moment that you've had in your running life that only runners will understand?
So when every time I do a marathon in the last few kilometers, I get so emotional and like in so much, there's so much of pain that I go through, or maybe it's a mental thing that, okay, I have run so much, there's so much left, there's this last few kilometers left and I have to push it. And, I get so emotional. I can't, I'm like almost in tears. And then, there was this Chicago Marathon is quite memorable for me because I just happened to see there are so many of the people holding these banners on the way the crowd which is cheering, and then one of the banners read that Dad, this is for you.
Aww.
Dad, this is for you. And normally I wouldn't be reading a lot of stuff in the last few kilometers. I just focused on finishing, but this I read. And I was like, I just started thinking about my dad.
Yeah.
And it was that very emotional last few kilometers. And I just felt like my dad is speaking to me. And he's saying, yes, you can do it. Yeah. So,
that is amazing that you managed to pick that sign out of all the signs at that point in the race. So, that's really special.
And that is the race where I got my personal best.
Yeah. Great. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. What about a high moment for you in your running career?
Every time I race, and when I get so much of this appreciation, and my family feels good about all of it. And my work, at my work, I feel so great because work-wise also I'm growing smarter and I'm doing so good. And I think that this is the high moment. And then something else happens after 3 months, and again there's another high moment. So for me, there have been so many high moments like this. Like I finished the Berlin Marathon in 4 hours. I thought, oh wow, 4 hours! I did finish marathon, and I finished that time, and I thought it was so good. And then I did my next race. I improved so much, and it was not just the race, but I improved. I was getting smarter, I was looking good, I was doing so good at work, like I said. So I'm on the high all the time.
Yeah, well, of course you are when you're doing things like you are to kind of really help make a difference in the world. I'm not surprised at that whatsoever. All right, finally, what do you tell yourself when you're standing on the start line of a race?
So I just tell every race I am nervous. I think that whatever the amount of training that you do, there is going to be some nervous energy at the start line, which we can control. So I tell myself, you have trained for it, and you can do it. Yeah. I visualize the finish.
That's great. Really good tactics to use. Cool. Thank you so much. And Bhumika, I always ask my guests to send me a photo of them in a power pose, something you would do on the start line, maybe hands on hips or hands above your head. Will you send us a photo of you in a power pose?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been so insightful. Where can people find out more about you if they want to follow along in the future?
My Instagram is @Bhumika.Patel1.
Okay. I will put links in the show notes as well, just so. So Instagram is probably the one that you want people to go to the most?
Yes, and I'm active on Twitter also.
Okay,
yeah.
I will put links to both of those in the show notes, so make sure you go check those out. Well, Bhumika, thank you so much. This has been just amazing to hear what you're doing, to really move things along in India and particularly in Bangalore, but just to kind of grow the running community and show the rest of the world just how special things can be, especially for those who are often forgotten. So thank you so much for all that you do. You really are a role model and an inspiration. So I am sure I speak on behalf of everyone listening right now when I say thank you for your part in growing this wonderful community.
Thank you, Tina, for having me here.
I don't know about you, but I found that really interesting to think about how different things can be, and we take a lot for granted in the way that we live our lives. What Bhumika is doing is just wonderful and touching the lives of those who are often ignored, so just such a great woman. You can find links to everything we talked about today in the show notes at tinamuir.com/episode 42. And I want to ask you, have you been a listener for a while? If so, could you please do me a huge favor and leave a review on iTunes? It helps me so much, as iTunes puts a lot of weight into those podcast rankings, and it will help me climb up and get exposure so much faster. So I'd really appreciate if you would take a few minutes to leave a review. Thank you so much in advance for doing that. Next week, we have world record holder Camille Herron, who recently ran, get this, 100 miles at 7:38 pace. Yes, that does include breaks. And she's also won a lot of other big time events lately, but she actually used to struggle with a lot of injuries. So you'll learn what she's changed and what these secrets are that have allowed her to kind of get these high volume training and high volume races in. I hope you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.